Welcome back to Box Office Maniacs, and today is a very special day. Of course, it's Friday the 13th. And you know I can't just go and not make a video when it's Friday the 13th. Always got to make a video on Friday the 13th. So tonight, I'm going to be talking about what happened to Friday the 13th. Where did it go? So, as you know, I'm a massive Jason fan, huge hardcore Jason fan. And they keep bringing out movies for Chucky. We got a brand new Halloween coming out this year, which I cannot wait for. And we have another Hellraiser that just got released. So what happened to Jason? Where did he go? Now, if you're not familiar with Friday the 13th, I'm going to go through the movies from the first to the last one and tell you all the films up until now and where the newest sequel is or isn't, actually. Of course, first off, we have Friday the 13th. Classic. Then we had the very first, or I guess the first big appearance of Jason for Part 2. And one of my personal favorites here is Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D, where, of course, Jason gets the hockey mask. And I think the best one is Friday the 13th, the final chapter, which is what I based this mask off of. If you ever watched the Becoming Jason video that I made where I cosplayed as Jason. Then we ended up with Friday the 13th Part 5. Go Roy! Then they decided to bring Jason back from the dead in Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Then right after that we had Part 7, A New Blood. And then finally we had Jason Takes Manhattan Part 8. Now, that, I guess, would have been like the official last Friday the 13th. Even though they did make a few more, but as for just the Jason character himself, Manhattan was pretty much the last of the films. But we ended up going farther with Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. Now, again, this is supposed to be the final Friday, but it really wasn't the final Friday, because next up we got Jason X. Jason Goes to Space. And then, after that, we got yet another Jason movie, which was actually Jason vs. Freddy. So it was kind of a Freddy-Jason movie, which of course was called Jason vs. Freddy. And then, way back in 2009, we got a reboot, just calling it Friday the 13th. So there you go, and that was the end of Jason. But at some point in there, I can't remember what year it was, but they did come out with a Friday the 13th TV series that had nothing to do with Jason. It was just called Friday the 13th, but I really enjoyed it and watched it a lot. So pretty much 2009 was the end of Jason. That was it. There was no more Friday the 13th movies after that. Unless you want to consider the game that came out just recently, the Friday the 13th game, which was really good. It was made by a bunch of Friday the 13th fans, and they did a great job with it. So after doing some research, I found out sort of what happened to this franchise. And a lot of it is just completely stupid. Especially just the recent thing that just happened to it. Okay, first off, there was supposed to be a direct sequel to the reboot, which I actually liked. I liked the reboot quite a lot. But the direct sequel was just going to be called Friday the 13th, The Death of Jason. If they're rebooting it, I don't know why they're already planning the death of Jason in that movie, but it never came to be. And then, back in 2013, I remember hearing that they were going to make a found footage Friday the 13th movie, which I personally think would have been terrible because I hate found footage films. There's only one or two that I've actually liked or enjoyed watching, but for the most part, I really do not like found footage films, and doing that for a Friday the 13th film was just, I don't think was a great idea, and I'm glad they didn't do it. And then, actually, after that, this is something I looked up, but I've never even heard of this one. They were planning on doing a Friday the 13th 3D back in 1988. And going back to that time period where Jason was, I had no idea that was even a thing, and apparently it wasn't a thing because it never got made. And then, after that, they were planning on making a TV series for Friday the 13th, where I believe the plots had something to do with this detective, and he was out looking for his missing brother, and he ends up in Crystal Lake, and Jason was there, and he's like researching Jason's family. It actually sounded really good, and then I think they said the network thought it was too dark or too violent, and decided not to do it. And then after that, there was some other attempt at a reboot. I'm not exactly sure what that one was, I had heard rumors that he was supposed to go back to his wearing sack on his head rather than the hockey mask, and they were trying to reboot it again, and of course that never happened. And then I believe there was a prequel in the works. I had heard something about a prequel going back to where Jason was just a kid and following him and I guess finding out why he went crazy and why he ended up in the lake, and that sounded terrible. And again, that's one that I'm really glad they didn't make. Now we get up to the last year or so where Paramount is like, well, you know, they don't think that horror movies are big business anymore. It came out. I mean, it was broke all box office records. It just, you know, exploded. And not to mention Get Out was just nominated for an Oscar for Best Film of the Year. So this would have been the perfect time to bring out a new Friday the 13th. Would it not? I would think so. However, what happened here was they released the movie Rings. Now, I don't know if you guys remember. I'm sure the horror fans on here do remember this. The movie The Ring, which was a remake of the Japanese film. Great film. Really, really good. And then they made the sequel, The Ring 2, I think it was called, or something like that. And I think it was just The Ring 2 was what it was called. And from what I remember, I only ever seen it one time, and I remember it not being very good. And then all these years later, you know, they decided, hey, we need another Rings movie. So they made up another Rings, which was called The Rings, which is the third one, and it just bombed at the box office. I mean, it just bombed. So they took a look at that, and Friday the 13th was like weeks away from going into production. I don't know what version of it was. They all had everything together, ready to go, get it in production here. And then Rings came out, and they're like, oh, it failed at the box office. Let's cancel Friday the 13th. Cancel Friday the 13th because Rings sucked. Who makes decisions like that? You know, I don't think there is one Jason fan out there who thinks to themselves, man, that Rings movie sucked. I really hope they cancel that Friday the 13th movie. I mean, these people in Hollywood, they're just stupid. They're like idiots. We should have already had several more sequels of Friday the 13th by now, because horror, once again, is a big commodity, even though they don't make that many huge movies anymore. But I mean, people obviously still love horror films because everybody went to go see that and Get Out. And, you know, this is a perfect, and with Halloween coming out this year, we need a Friday the 13th movie. We need something to bring Jason back and bring it back. You know, don't do another reboot, or, you know, make a sequel to the reboot if they want to do that or something. But it'd be great to actually have him back on the big screen. Now, hopefully, whoever does that is not the idiots who canceled it because of Rings doing bad at the box office. That is probably one of the dumbest things I have ever heard. Just completely stupid. I mean, it's in the same genre, but other than that, it doesn't even make any sense. Why cancel it? So that's where we're at now with Friday the 13th. There is nothing. There's nothing out there. No more Jason. And as far as I know, there isn't any attempts to bring him back anytime soon until they bring out Halloween. And I guarantee you, if Halloween does huge business, which I'm assuming it probably will from what I've been hearing about it, there will probably be another Friday the 13th. Once they're like, oh my God, look how much money this Halloween movie's making. Make that Friday the 13th movie again. So yeah, that's where it's at now. It's stalled. From what I know, there is no sequels planned. There's no reboots planned. There's nothing planned. It's completely dead in the water. So as a longtime Jason fan, I'm pretty upset about that. I really hope that some kind of news would come out. Today would have been a perfect day for somebody to release, hey, guess what? We're coming out with a brand new Friday the 13th before Halloween comes out. But I mean, if they're still making Hellraiser films, I think they're on Hellraiser 97, whatever. You know, I think somebody could spend a little bit of money, go out into the woods, and give us a good Friday the 13th film. Somebody. So until that happens, I will still be on the lookout for more news on the films, if there is any. I'll get on here and say, hey, look, guess what? They're finally rebooting it. I hope that will be soon. So there you go. There's my Friday the 13th video for you today. I gotta get this edited and uploaded because I've been at work all day, just got home, and I really wanted to make this video for you. I wanted to get it posted before the end of the day because posting it on Saturday the 14th, well, wouldn't make much sense. Love all you maniacs out there. If you're not currently a maniac, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join all the other maniacs on the channel because we love to have you and I love to read your comments. And I will see you next time here on